The last thing I want to talk about is moduling and beaconing. For that, we'll actually go all the way back to the calculator. Or, I'm sorry, not the calculator, the spreadsheet. And I'm not going to do moduling and beaconing in here. That level of complexity is beyond what I wanted to accomplish today. But we could easily add in the effects of moduling and beaconing here in the calculation of a recipe. So we'll just take the green science recipe here, since I was not thinking and I didn't make copies of this page. And if we add in a couple of more fields, I'm just going to add them in right here. I'm going to copy some stuff that I don't have to type. So let's say in Factorio, we're making green circuits, and we want to module these. Let's just say we're going to productivity module them with we'll do productivity module 3s. I'm also going to make some speed modules for later. Say we wanted to productivity module them. So the productivity here is on the tooltip on the right side. It's plus 20%, but you have to remember that productivity lowers speed. So we need to also notice the minus 30% crafting speed, the second line from the bottom. So if we take those numbers, we type them in here, we need to edit this formula to factor those in. So in order to factor those in, I need to check my math here. I'm going to move some stuff around, but the formula will still be the same. I'm going to put B9 here in the front, take it out of the end, and I'm going to switch B4 and B5 just because speed modifies this, speed percentage modifies this, but the productivity percentage modifies something else. So let's start with adding in the productivity. Productivity is pretty simple. You divide the whole formula by the percentage over 100. So 20% productivity means the machine runs at produces 1.2 items for every craft cycle. So we want to do 1 plus the 20 divided by 100. So we're making that a 1.2. So now we only need 10 machines. Well, we haven't factored speed in yet. So for speed, we need to modify the machine base crafting speed to include that speed percentage. And we'll do that by multiplying the base crafting speed by something similar. 1 plus this number divided by 100. Close that parenthesis. So what that does is that multiplies this 0.75 times 1 minus 0.3, so times 0.7, which slows the machine down, but it gives us this additional productivity. So we still have the input of 1.5 transport belts, 1.5 inserters, just like we had before we added these values in, but now we're producing green science with more machines because productivity slowed it down. Instead, if we want to put in one of each, speed and productivity, we'll see now that the productivity is only 10%, but the crafting speed is plus 35%, because the speed modules increase the speed by 50. So if we put a 10 and a 35 in our spreadsheet now, and this is a positive 35, now we can, with the same number of inputs and the same desired output, we can make the same green science with 8 machines instead of 12. At this point, a lot of people will do a hybrid. Well, at this point, you'll probably be on... You might be on yellow machines. And a lot of people at this point will do a hybrid method of one speed module. And you saw this if you watched my Factorio production scrap. We'll do one speed module and 3 productivity modules if you're using tier 3s. And this gives you 30% productivity. And the one speed module counteracts the speed hit from the productivity while still providing a little bit of speed boost. So now we need to change the base speed to 1.25, which is the base speed of a assembling machine 3. You see it there on the tooltip. And then we need to put 30 and 5 into our spreadsheet. Let's do 1.25. And then we'll do 30 and 5. And now, because these are higher speed machines, we only need 5.2 of these machines to create the same output. Now, what I usually do is, since this was double the machine speed, at this point, I'll usually change all my formulas to be 2.5, which is still double the machine speed. And then I'm producing an extra 67% of the science for roughly the same number of machines. Even if you took these productivity percentages out, that's 12 assembly machines 3 makes 2.5, just like 12 assembly machines 2 at the 0.75 speed makes 1.5. So oftentimes that's what I'll do, is I'll first upgrade to assembly machine 3, keeping my array the same, and then I can add in this hybrid productivity and speed module combination to give me a little bit of a boost either on the as requiring fewer machines, or give me a boost on the output by allowing me to increase this to almost 3.5 if I still had 12 machines here. So that's kind of what I work on when I do this. That of course increases your needs here and all of your needs down here, but you can also compensate for that by using the better machines and the better and doing the moduling in those as well. Now the other method of moduling is to have beacons. Beacons you always want to offset. So I always put the first one so that the corner of its area of effect, which is yellow, is overlapping the very corner of the machine. And then you can just do a row of them, making sure that the last one is, you don't go any further than the last one still overlapping the last machine. And you do the same thing on the other side. And then if we set this to green science, green circuit before up there. It didn't matter though, because it was we were looking at machine performance, and the productivity bonus is not the actual item. And if we insert more modules, we insert 4 productivity modules in each, and 2 speed modules in each beacon. Now we show... Well, these probably have to be powered, don't they, to show the effect. Active energy source. And our poles. Okay, so this shows a 40% productivity, which makes sense because it's 4 productivity 3 modules, which are 10% each. And it shows a 340% boost to speed. And that's because we have 8 total beacons with 2 speed modules in each. So if we type those numbers in, 40 and 340, into our spreadsheet, now we only need 2 machines to produce that 2.5 science per second. And of course, at this point, you're probably outposting everything or using a city block grid type of design. So you're wanting to crank out a huge amount of science, you know, maybe a full yellow belt of science minimum, which is only 12 machines. So you could even, and it's 12 machines plus all of the beacons. But at this point, you're trying to maximize your inputs and outputs and your beaconing. So with this same concept, we can do the same thing here in Kirk McDonald. And I'll just do green science again. We can change our machines. Well, let's start with this one first. So we can do 1 speed module, 1 productivity module. Tells us how many factories we need. We can use this to fill it down where we can, just to make sure that we optimize how much we're outputting. We can also change our factory here to assembly machine 3. We can add in the additional productivity modules where applicable. And if we wanted to, we can even add in additional speed modules here, since these items can't be productivity moduled. But we don't really need to, because we're already well under a machine anyway. And these kind of even are a little bit optional, because you're just saving a little bit of iron. It's not much. I mean, we're at 5.2 iron there. If we do all this modulating, we're at 4.3. That's basically nothing. Actually, even if we made it to 2.5, it's still fairly ineffectual. So there's not a whole lot of point in beaconing some of this stuff, or modulating some of this stuff. But we can do the same kind of concept here with the modulating and the beaconing and the math. If we wanted to do the beacon format, if we wanted to say we want to get a full yellow belt out, the beacons, we want speed module 3. Now, this used to always make me wonder, do I put the number of modules in without that tooltip? Do I put the number of modules in here, or do I put the number of beacons in here? Well, the tooltip here tells you the number of modules. Also, the FAQ tells you, I think it's in the FAQ. Right here, the first one. Do the numbers in the beacons column represent the number of modules or the number of beacons? They represent the number of modules. So we have here in Factorio, we have 8 beacons, so that's 16 modules touching. Switching back. That's 16 modules touching each machine. So that gives us 11.7, which is the same as we came up with here. So if you wanted to fully beacon and module green science, you'd be bringing in just over a blue belt of iron. You may productivity some of these gears, maybe just to bring that down to a blue belt, depending on your situation. Is it the number of receivers? No, so that's 12. So that's counting the number of beacons plus the number of modules in the actual machine. Or that's your sort of comparison there. So you have to be careful, very careful with that. Effect sources, yeah, 12. The number of receiver on the tooltip, maybe this. I don't know what you mean. Oh, number of effect receivers. That's just telling you how many machines are being affected by each beacon. Yeah, Ibn Bonobo, you're right. You don't need to beacon and speed module anything. You could just build a ton, and actually we did that briefly here in Kirk McDonald. We take this off. You could just build 129 assembly machines 3 with full productivity in them, and you would get the same effect. Some of it has to do with layout. Some of it has to do with personal preference, I suppose. As well as cost. I'm not sure what the cost of 12 assembly machines 3 plus gosh, I guess it would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It would be 12 and 12 and 3 and 3. So it would be 30 beacons. The cost of all the speed module 3s, which is a lot of circuits. And you do have to do the math on the sort of how much it costs to build this array with 12 of these machines and 30 beacons and all the modules compared to building something like this. No, something like this with no beacons. Just the productivity modules and 120, cost in both cases. The cost of input materials as well as power. I'm not sure which one is better, which one is worse. And that's a task for a different tutorial. But you could build the 130 almost machines and lay them out and just feed them slowly and let them run. I'm not sure what's better on power. Definitely the space there's less space used when you beacon, but it may end up being the same cost. I have no idea. I've never done that math, but you could definitely build that way. Productivity is the more important factor. Oh, you're right. Helmod could show us that, which is where we're going next. So, active craft time, I believe, shows us. Yes, active craft time shows us the moduled and beaconed effects of this, so we can see. And UPS, yeah, that's an excellent point. The more machines you have, the more UPS. So beaconing reduces UPS cost. So active craft time shows the effects of the applied modules, including the ones that are in the beacons. So you can see what the effect of that would be. So if we wanted to produce the aforementioned 15, we need 11 point something machines. 12 would be just a little overkill, which correlates to what we calculated, both in Kirk McDonald and on the spreadsheet. Factory Planner allows you to module however you would like. You can pick. Okay, let's say I want one. Oops, I forgot to change. Left shift click. There we go. I forgot to change the machine here. So if we wanted to produce still the 1.5, or if we want to, oops, I'm not that used to this mod. Sorry about that. If we wanted to produce 2.5, then we get that 8 point something, that 9. Oh yeah, you're right. That's true. Picking a machine in the middle. No, the machines. I'm clicking the machine. Every machine is touched by 12 effect sources, so it shouldn't matter which machine I pick because I have. Each beacon is affecting different receivers, but each machine is the same. Each machine has 12 effect sources, 8 beacons, and yeah, no problem. Okay, you confused me for a second though. So you can do this, and you have the 8 output, or we could say let's do our 15, and let's right-click that one, left-click that one, change this to a 4, and we have that 129 like we showed in Kirk McDonald, but we could beacon. We want 8 beacons. We want speed module 3s. And we want 2 in each beacon. Or we could just say max. This tells us that we need 11.69 factories, which is what we had here, I think. Yep, 11.7. So, this gives you the same output, and Helmod will also give us the same output. So if we click into this, we change this to 3, we do 1 speed and 3 productivity. We see the 6 here again. We back that 1 speed out, put the other productivity in here. We increase the recipe to 15. We see the 129. And then if we do the beacons, number of beacons affecting 1 factory, 8. And what the assembler per beacon, I think that's to do with power costs. Then we need 2 modules in those. And we get back down to the 11 point whatever, the 12 machines making. So in this case, the assembler per beacon would be we have 12 assemblers. We would have 30 beacons. It would be 12 divided by 30. That would be 0.4. Is that right? Yeah, 0.4 assemblers per beacon on average. And so then that tells us how we need 57 megawatts. Just for producing just the science portion of that recipe. Now, if we wanted to, let's see, let's copy this out. And then let's import it back in. And it adds us, okay, cursor. Oh, yeah, that's the Factorio Control C. Okay. So this is a copy of this factory here. Showing a different number for some reason. Why is it showing a different number? Oh, because this should be 8 and 0.4. That's why it shows a different number. Okay. That's weird that that's not in the export. Alright, so anyways, this is, so these are identical now. So now if we wanted to alter this to take the beacons out, and we come up with that 129 machines, this now requires 202 megawatts, or we could look at it this way. A total power of 205 megawatts for this assembly compared to only 60 megawatts for this one. So beaconing is definitely more power efficient. Assuming that I did this stuff right with the beacons per module and whatnot in here. Or beacons per assembler, I mean. This is definitely more power efficient than this method of just doing productivity. So keep that in mind too, because you're using 3.5 times the amount of power for the same assembly. And of course, this doesn't take into account how many materials go in to making the assembly machines versus making the beacons and the modules. But I suspect that it's probably cheaper with the beacons and modules rather than doing the 130 machines, assembly machines. So yeah, Evan, and that's the next thing I wanted to talk about after modulating. So you kind of get a feel for what modulating, how each method, how each tool can be used to calculate the amount of modules, the amount of beacons, and the amount of products that are produced by the that are produced by the assembly line and how that affects the entire assembly line.